Hello, we are in module 1. We are in a module that we call the economics of money. We are just stepping into our third learning goal, the learning goal which speaks about taxation, about savings and investments. Let me tell you a story to try and establish what are taxes and why they need to be paid. When we were in school, thumbs up used to be the in thing to sip. Whenever we did well, either in our exams or in sports or in any event, our parents used to gift us a bottle of thumbs up to each one of us three. And then just as we would get ready to drink it, they would suggest that we pour 1/3 of bottle into a container. And from that container, dad and mom used to pick up their glass of drink. It was their way of introducing us to taxation. It was their way of telling us that while the three of us represented citizens of India, the two of them were the government. We never asked why should we share 1/3 of our so-called quote unquote earning with them, because we knew that as good parents, as great parents, they were in more than one way responsible for our earning, meaning responsible for our good performance, be it in academics, be it in sports, or be it in any other field. In almost much the same way, as we grew up, as we begin to earn in corporate India, as we begin to make profits and gains in business or profession, a part of that profit, a part of that salary has to be paid to the government by way of tax. There can be absolutely no compromise on that. Now you might be tempted to ask, why should I pay the tax? What is it that the government has done for it to take a share of my earning? First up, the most important thing for us to understand is that it is the government which has set up the environment on the basis of which your earning happens. In a very different language, it means that both you and the government are partners in the venture that you do. It is with the money that you give the government that they are able to maintain our infrastructure. You want great roads, you want good railways, you want lovely seaports, you want outstanding airports, and then you want the government to take care of people when they fall ill in the way that they fell ill during the novel coronavirus. You want them to establish hospitals. You would also want them to take care of the less privileged sections of society. And where do they get the money from? They will have to collect the money from you. One of the first things, therefore, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, that we need to learn is that we must pay our taxes and that there can be no compromise on it. There are two forms of taxes. The tax that I explained just now, a share of what we earn, is called income tax. It's also referred to in technical language as direct tax. There is another form of tax. I would like to call it the expenditure tax. In technical language, it's called the goods and services tax. Whenever you go to a hotel, whenever you go to a restaurant, whenever you go to a shopping mall, whenever you go and buy any product or avail any service, you need to pay a tax that can range anywhere between 4 to 28%. This is an indirect tax. This is called the goods and services tax. This is another source of money for the government to run the country. What we need to realize, what we need to understand, what we need to appreciate is that while you can short circuit the process by telling the merchant, look, I don't want a bill, so I don't have to pay the tax, that's not fair. And I'll soon tell you what will happen if a good number of us choose not to pay our taxes. Let me tell you the consequence of your choosing not to pay your tax. Let us assume that the income tax rate in our country is 30%. Suppose people earn rupees 100. At a 30% tax rate, the government earns rupees 30. Let's say this rupees 30 is adequate for the government to run the country. Now suppose 20% of people do not pay taxes. It means that tax is collected on the rupees 80 only and will be only rupees 24, which is 80 rupees into 30%. But you know the government needs rupees 30 to run the country. It will now try and collect the rupees 30 from the people who earn rupees 80. I know the numbers are increasingly looking troublesome, but this is the fact. This means that the new tax rate will become 30 divided by 80, that is 37.5%. So, when 20% of the people do not pay taxes, the tax rate will have to be increased from 30% to 37.5%. The more people who don't pay, the more the good guys will have to pay, and the more will be the tax rate. It will mean you will be living off other people's money. I'll repeat, it will mean you will be living off other people's money, and there can be nothing more shameful than that. I wish to make one quick last point before we close out this segment on taxes and before we get into understanding the difference between savings and investments. Oftentimes people ask this question: why is it that the government is wasting taxpayers' money? I have a serious objection to this choice of phrase. I don't have an objection to the word wasting, but I have an objection to the word taxpayers' money. If you earn 100 rupees and you pay 30 rupees by way of tax, that 30 rupees is no longer your money. That's the government's money. What the government does with its money is its prerogative. Just like what you do with the money that your parents give you is your prerogative. And if you're one of those just born professionals who is working in corporate India, when a company gives out salary, what you do with that money is your choice, your lookout. In almost much the same way, taxes are the government's money. That they should spend the money responsibly is one matter, but to go say that that's taxpayers' money may not be really fair. So let me summarize. We need to pay our taxes. We need to realize that the government and us are partners in business. Unless we pay our taxes, the government will not be able to run this country. Unless we pay our taxes, we will not have the kind of infrastructure that the rest of the world has. Unless we pay taxes, we cannot have a good public healthcare system, and we will not be able to take care of the marginalized sections of society. It's time we moved on to the next part of this very same learning goal. There is a very simple mathematics equation. It consists of 3 alphabets. I, that stands for income. E, that stands for expense. And S, that stands for saving. How you write that equation? which do you put as a subject of the formula determines the generation from which you come from. I minus S is equal to E. That was the philosophy that a generation before me, my father's generation, followed. A generation that believed that we will earn our income. We will save whatever we want to save immediately and then spend or expend the balance. Then came my generation, a generation that said that the equation should read I minus E is equal to S. Let me earn income, let me spend whatever I like, expend whatever I wish, and whatever is left, if there is anything left, I will save. That obviously was not the smartest of smart ideas. And then came the next generation, the generation of my nephews and nieces. A generation that perhaps, I don't want to sound flippant, but a generation that perhaps believed that I plus B is equal to E, where I stands for income, B stands for borrowing, and E stands for expenditure. Let me earn income, let me borrow money, and let me expend everything. There is a category of people who do that. Now, I don't have to tell you which is a smart thing to do, but if you insist, if you ask me, I will tell you that the smart thing to do is income minus savings is equal to expenditure. That means the first check that you write the moment you receive an income is to yourself. You might ask, why should you talk about savings when I'm still a college goer? Well, if you're a just born professional, obviously savings and investment mean a lot to you. But if you're a collegian, if you're a college goer, how does it matter, is what you might ask. Let me give you an example. There was this guy who used to get 7,000 rupees from his parents for the purpose of spending in his hostel. Of this amount, don't ask me how he managed to do that. 1,500 rupees at the beginning of each month he used to set aside. 1 year later, even without taking into account the interest that money must have earned, he had 1,500 into 12, 18,000 saved for himself. With the 18,000, he went and bought a smartphone. Imagine the kind of pride that he would have. Imagine how much his chest would have swelled when he bought that phone, all from his money. It's very, very important that you must learn the habit of saving right now, as soon as possible. The money that you save can be placed anywhere, or to use a very different language, it can be invested anywhere. You can invest it in bank deposits. You can put the money in corporate fixed deposits. You can invest the money in equity shares. You can put them in mutual funds. You can, as you go up the corporate ladder, buy gold. There are several avenues for investment. You would realize that somewhere along the line I use the word savings, and then I also use the word investment. While savings and investment sound alike, there is a technical distinction between the two of them. And I think I'll very quickly run you through that. Saving is more short-term in nature. The objective of saving is that you should not lose your money. The objective of saving is that it's okay to earn less return so long as the money is not lost. If you require money 3 months from today, you would like to save. Keeping money in the savings bank account is an example of saving. Investment is more long-term. Investment is where you put aside the money for say 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, etc. I'll very quickly try to walk you through the other differences between saving and investment. Take a look at that table that is popping up on your screen. Look at the account type. In the case of saving, you would be putting your money in a bank. In the case of investing, you will route those investments possibly through a brokerage firm. When it comes to saving, the returns are relatively low, whereas on investments, they are much higher. When it comes to saving, when it comes to risk, savings have virtually no risk, whereas the risk associated with an investment varies with the type of investment. Investment in equity shares is far more risky than investment in bonds, than investment in bank deposits. So goes the conventional logic. In savings, the primary product is saving products, whereas in investment, the products are stocks, fixed deposits, mutual funds, debentures, etc. On the time horizon, savings are short term, generally less than a year. Investments are long term, generally more than a year. Last but definitely not the least, liquidity, the ability of yours to convert them into cash is high in the case of saving and not so very high in the case of investment. Many people, and I believe that could possibly include you, ask which is better, savings or investment? That's a question which is impossible to answer because it depends on circumstances. There are two thumb rules. Rule number one says that if you need money within the next 1 year, put your money in savings. Rule number two says if you don't need the money over the next 1 year, and if you're okay with the probability of losing some money, then you should invest it. Let me offer you a quick example, a quick real life example for you to appreciate the distinction between savings and investment. Suppose there is a significant college fee of yours that is coming up for payment in the next 3 months. Just as an example, let us say the amount payable is 1 lakh. Your father would be wise in putting that money in a saving account rather than in investment because there is a very small time window before which the payment has to be made. Let's take another example. Let's say you have a brother of yours who is now in class 10. Your father wants to have money when your brother decides to go to the United States for higher studies for post-graduation in engineering. So that's going to be around about 6 years from today. Your father would do well to put monies in investments because there is a time horizon and there is also the probability, also the possibility of money earning money, which means money earning a certain rate of return. The underlying message is simple. Savings are for short term, investments are for the long term. We are now entering the last phase of this module. But before we step out and go to module number 2, there is this little thing that I want you to do. On that piece of paper that you had pulled in and kept aside, and with a pen of yours, try to quickly answer the following 2 questions, and I'll wait for you until you do that. Question number 1, is it okay not to pay taxes? If you say yes, it's okay, why is it okay? If you say no, it's not okay, why is it not okay? And now we get into question number 2. From the top of your mind, without going back, can you put out on that sheet of paper as to what is the desirable savings equation? Let me now summarize the third learning goal. We need to be good citizens of the country. One of the first steps towards that is to pay our taxes honestly. The government requires money from us because, in a strange way, the government and us are partners in what we do. That money is going to be used for public welfare. It's important that we realize that the minute we part a part of our money as taxes, it is up to the government to decide where it wants to put that money in. The other important thing that we need to recall is that the fundamental math equation is income minus savings is equal to expenditure. That means as soon as you receive your paycheck, pay yourself, make the saving or make the investment, and then spend the balance. We are done with module 1, the one that I called economics of money. We are now set to step into module 2, the one that we are going to call smart financial goal setting. In that module, we learn how to lay down financial goals. We'll also talk about the magic of compounding, and we'll close that out by discussing why it is important to plan and why it's important to record our spending. Look forward to seeing you in module 2. Thank you.